December 20th, 1968. A young couple, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, parked on Lake Herman Road. It was a night for lovers' secrets, but death found them first. Shots rang out. The killer was swift and brutal. Their lives ended tragically on that lonely road. This was just the beginning.
Months later, another couple, Darlene Farron and Mike Majot, were attacked. This time, it was at Blue Rock Springs Park. The killer, shrouded in darkness, fired on their car. I died. Mike, though wounded, survived. He would be the only victim to ever face the Zodiac and live.
The killer, still unknown, craved recognition. He wanted the world to know his name, even if that name was a cipher. And so began a terrifying game of cat and mouse with the police and the public. He mailed cryptic letters to newspapers. He threatened more violence. The Zodiac Killer was born.
The letters started arriving at newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, the Vallejo Times-Herald. Each one contained a chilling message from the killer. He claimed responsibility for the murders. He taunted the police. He threatened more bloodshed.
This is the Zodiac speaking. But there was something else in these letters. Something that set me apart from other criminals. I included ciphers, complex codes that I claimed held my true identity. I challenged the public to crack them. Could they solve the puzzle before I killed again?
The ciphers became a national obsession. Amateur sleuths and expert cryptographers alike tried to decipher the Zodiac's riddles. One cipher, a 340-character puzzle, remained unsolved for decades. The mystery only deepened. Who was this killer? What secrets did the ciphers hold? September 27th, 1969. A sunny day at Lake Berryessa turned into a scene of horror. A man approached a young couple picnicking on a secluded island. He wore a strange hooded costume. On his chest, a symbol, a crossed circle, the Zodiac.
Brandishing a gun, he tied us up. Then he stabbed us repeatedly. He left us for dead, but miraculously, one of us survived. Cecilia Shepard clung to life long enough to describe the attacker and his chilling words, but she succumbed to her injuries. The Zodiac had claimed 2 more victims.
The killer left a message on the couple's car, written in blood. By knife, it read, a chilling confirmation of his brutality. The Zodiac was escalating his reign of terror. October 11th, 1969. The streets of San Francisco were gripped by fear. The Zodiac had struck again. This time, his victim was a cab driver named Paul Stein, shot dead in his taxi. The killer took a piece of Stein's shirt, a gruesome trophy. Witnesses saw a man fleeing the scene. They gave a description to the police, but a crucial error was made. The police dispatcher mistakenly broadcast a description of a black suspect instead of a white one, as reported by the witnesses. This mistake may have allowed the Zodiac to escape into the night. The killer sent another letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. He included a piece of Paul Stein's shirt. Proof, he claimed, of his crime. The city was on edge. Who would be next? The Zodiac seemed unstoppable. Section 5. The shadow lengthens, more possible victims. The confirmed killings stopped, but, the letters continued. The Zodiac taunted the police. He boasted of his crimes. He threatened to kill again. He even claimed to have committed murders that were never officially linked to him. Were there more victims? The Zodiac claimed there were. He hinted at a body count in the double digits. Some unsolved murders from the time fit his modus operandi, but without concrete evidence, they remained just that, unsolved. The full extent of the Zodiac's crimes may never be known. The mystery deepened. The letters stopped. The killings stopped. Had the Zodiac vanished, or was he out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike again? The fear lingered. The case went cold, but the legend of the Zodiac Killer lived on. Section 6. Hunting a Ghost. The prime suspects emerge. The Zodiac case became an obsession for many. Amateur sleuths, journalists, and law enforcement officers dedicated their lives to unmasking the killer. Over the years, hundreds of suspects were investigated. Some were cleared, others remained persons of interest, but 2 names in particular stand out: Arthur Lee Allen and Richard Gaikowski. Arthur Lee Allen was a former schoolteacher with a troubled past. He was interviewed multiple times by police. He owned a Zodiac brand watch. He wore boots that matched footprints found at one of the crime scenes. But there was no conclusive evidence linking him to the crimes. DNA tests conducted years later failed to match Allen to any of the Zodiac evidence. Richard Gaikowski was a journalist who worked for a small newspaper in the Bay Area. He fit the physical description of the Zodiac. He had a history of mental illness and a fascination with codes and ciphers. Some of his writings contained eerie similarities to the Zodiac's letters, but again, there was no definitive proof. Section 7. Arthur Lee Allen, the case for and against. Arthur Lee Allen remained a prime suspect for years. The circumstantial evidence against him was compelling. He had the means, the opportunity, and a history of violence. Witnesses claimed to have seen him wearing a watch with the Zodiac symbol. He even admitted to owning a bloody knife that he claimed to use for killing chickens. But Allen vehemently denied any involvement in the Zodiac killings. He passed a lie detector test, and crucially, his fingerprints and DNA did not match any of the evidence found at the crime scenes. Despite the suspicions, there was simply not enough evidence to charge him. Arthur Lee Allen died in 1992, taking his secrets, if he had any, to the grave. The case against Allen was strong on suspicion, but weak on hard evidence. He remains a person of interest, but without that crucial link, he cannot be definitively identified as the Zodiac Killer. The mystery continued. Section 8. Richard Gaikowski, another name in the frame. Richard Gaikowski's name emerged later in the investigation. A former colleague at the newspaper where Gaikowski worked came forward with information. He claimed that Gaikowski had made cryptic comments about the Zodiac killings, even hinting that he was the killer. Gaikowski's interest in codes and ciphers, combined with his writing style, fueled the suspicions. Some investigators believe that Gaikowski's background in journalism gave him the skills and the knowledge to craft the Zodiac's cryptic messages. They point to the similarities between Gaikowski's writing and the Zodiac's letters, but like Allen, there was no concrete evidence linking Gaikowski to the crimes. No fingerprints, no DNA, just a web of circumstantial evidence and intriguing coincidences. Gaikowski died in 2004. Was he the Zodiac Killer? The evidence is inconclusive. The mystery remained unsolved. Section 9. Enduring Enigma, the Zodiac's Legacy of Fear. The Zodiac Killer case cast a long shadow over America. The unsolved murders, the cryptic letters, the terrifying persona, all contributed to a climate of fear and paranoia. The Zodiac became a symbol of the dark side of the 1960s, a reminder that even in an age of peace and love, evil lurked in the shadows. The case also captured the public imagination. Books, documentaries, and films explored the Zodiac's crimes, each offering theories and interpretations. The killer's cryptic messages, particularly the unsolved 340-character cipher, became a challenge for amateur and professional codebreakers alike. The Zodiac Killer's legacy is one of fear, fascination, and enduring mystery. He remains a cultural touchstone, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. Section 10. A cold case heats up. DNA and new hope. Decades passed. The Zodiac case remained cold, but in recent years there have been glimmers of hope. Advances in DNA technology have allowed investigators to re-examine old evidence. New leads have emerged, and the case has been the subject of renewed interest, thanks in part to documentaries and podcasts. In 2021, a team of independent investigators claimed to have identified the Zodiac Killer as Gary Francis Post, a deceased man who had never been considered a suspect before. They cited new forensic evidence and eyewitness accounts. However, law enforcement officials have disputed these claims, stating that the case remains open and that Post is not considered a suspect at this time. Despite the setbacks, the search for the Zodiac Killer continues. The case remains a top priority for law enforcement agencies in California. And with the advent of new technologies and the unwavering dedication of investigators, there is always hope that one day the mystery of the Zodiac Killer will finally be solved.